Hello, and thank you for joining me. This week's Book of the Week is actually Book of the Weeks because we have two books. Last Laugh, Mr. Moto, and Thank You, Mr. Moto. And in these books, as was typical of the time, and I don't encourage this behavior, they drank a lot. And oh boy, so I got some empties as props. Anyway, I want to go back in time a bit to before the internet. And at that time, used bookstores were these kind of treasure hunts, right? You'd go to one and you'd rummage through things, and they were kind of sort of organized, but maybe not all together. And oh, this looks promising. That same time frame, and I'm thinking like late '80s, early '90s. Visiting the family home in Green, Mississippi, there were a bunch of old books kicking around, and you go ahead and help yourself if you like. There's one I didn't grab, which was literally a World War II infantry tactical manual for like squad and platoon. That was really cool. But it was either a used bookstore, I think, or it was in the family's gathering dust collection. What turns out to be Last Laugh, Mr. Moto. And so I read it back then, and now I've returned to it. And reading it then, I'm just going to separate you. It's a neat story about this sort of down and out ex-Navy officer who gets drawn into this clandestine world. And Mr. Moto he's a villain, but he's also not too villainous. Like, he doesn't, if you're in the game, that's one thing. If you're not in the game, you're a non-combatant and should be treated as such. A little bit of spoiler alert. There's this French aircraft, and it's somewhere on this island in the Caribbean, and if we can get to it, it's got this night fighting capability, and that's super secret technology, and blah, blah, blah. And super spoiler alert, the protagonist in the story that's not Mr. Moto believes he's saved the day because he smashed the special equipment on the aircraft. And I know enough about technical intelligence to say to you, you failed! A night fighter technology, think World War II, and this would be radar, right? Although the book, the author would not have known about radar necessarily at the time, so it's just some technology. But reading the description of the author, he smashed basically the cathode ray tube, and maybe a couple other things. But he has not damaged the emitter, he's not damaged the receiver, right? Which are the most sophisticated, important parts of a radar set. And even a smashed cathode ray tube and the other things, you could piece it together to work out like, phosphor screen, two sets of electromagnets, electron beam, and that's how you communicate to the operator what's going on, right? Meanwhile, we've got a radio emitter and a receiver and some other technology, and that's what actually does the work. So that would have actually been a major coup for Mr. Moto. And that got me to thinking, I personally would love to see some of these old stories where, like, the Orientals, to use a problematic word, aren't terribly bright, but they're very devious or such. Like, no, let them win. So I would have Mr. Moto speaking that broken English when he's talking to the dumb white guys, and then when he's not, you would then hear him speak in perfect BBC English to other people. I've learned subsequently that this hero villain character has kind of an arc, and so it's understood he's actually a super genius and all that, and so maybe he is playing that caricature already. Reread it, having read recently Thank You, Mr. Moto. This one takes place in China, and Japan is, well, the Chinese and Japanese, let's just say they have a lot of history, and this takes place during some of the earlier stages. Here, the United States is coming into World War II. In fact, I think it was written before Pearl Harbor and published after. This book was written well before, and the person up against Mr. Moto, as it were, is this American who drinks way too much. And is kind of a ne'er-do-well, but has enough money that living in China, he can live pretty large. So, and he gets involved with this woman who may not be the best person you've ever met in your life. And there's another Japanese villain who basically happy to kill everyone. And Mr. Moto's like, whoa, 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 slow down. We don't need to actually do that. And so there's this series of maneuverings involving some things that are going on with a lot of intrigue and such. Boy, oh boy. But the author seems writing this to be like, it appears to be, and certainly the character is, kind of empathetic to the Japanese. Like, hey, you know, Chinese, what happens to them, what happens to them. We're good here. Yeah, I have a lot of admiration and respect for the Japanese people. I've been to Japan. There's a lot of love here, but what Japan did to and in China, don't ever ask the Chinese to forgive it. They'll buy your cars, folks, but they're not going to be cool with you. And it's incredibly ugly. But that's another book that I read in another year. So we'll leave it at that. In some, these are pretty neat stories. They are problematic at times. They are, the author knows a lot but doesn't know everything, and that can come out, as I've said. So I do recommend these books. In particular, this idea I've expressed elsewhere that there's really something to be said for reading a book that's not just about another time, but is of another time. That's written from that time's framework, and people not, instead of looking back or not looking back as far as we are, they're looking at, and they're in that time. And these two detective stories are that the author knows what he knows, which is a fair amount, but he doesn't know everything, which sort of shows up at times. They're fun reads. Mr. Moto is an interesting antagonist, and there you go. So thank you very much for joining me. By all means, enjoy these books. Please do not drink to excess, and take care. And thank you for joining me.